Okay guys, this book is gonna happen. So one or two, I think 2 vlogs ago, 2 weeks ago, I talked about how for the first time I have a new idea for a book. Something brand new, not something I'm recycling, and it's been a long time. And last week I talked about how I don't want to rush through this, and kind of my realization that when I do ghostwriting work or when I do IP projects, anything where I am collaborating with other people on the book, that's a huge part of the reason why I can outline and write it as fast as I do. But when it's something like this, where it's just my own book, I've been trying too hard in the last 2 years to rush through that, and I need to give myself more time because it's just me working on this book. So I thought it would be fun, since this thing is sticking. I'm developing it. It's gonna happen. I'm gonna make this a book. I thought it would be fun to document every single part of the process. Like, here I am at the very beginning stage of writing a book that is completely my own, and what is that like from start to finish. And I have no idea when the finish line, when I'll cross it. I'm not giving myself a deadline for this yet, which makes me a little uncomfortable. I work really well with deadlines, but I'm not sure anymore how long I need to take on my own books when I'm not collaborating with another person. So for now, at least until I feel like I'm really ready to start outlining it, I'm not gonna plan it out and give myself deadlines. Vaguely though, in general, I feel like I would like to have this ready to go on submission next fall. So almost a year from now, which is, that's a lot of time for me. I think that's doable. That doesn't sound scary. So the way I started is I created a new document, and I will explain that title in a second, but this book has no dragons or balloons, so there's a reason. I'll get to it. And over over the course of about a week and a half, including when I was in the Ozarks last week, I just let myself ramble into this document. A lot of it I wrote on my AlphaSmart. Actually, quite a bit of it I wrote on the drive home, because, side note, the AlphaSmart works great for writing in the car if you get car sick. I get super car sick. I have to wear those wristbands, the pressure point wristbands, and sometimes I even have to take a Dramamine, and I can't read or write. But, you know, without looking at the screen, just staring at the window and typing away, oh man, I got like 1,000 words written in the car. It was great. It starts out just with me writing down the initial idea and then like kind of free writing and picking it apart and playing with it a little bit. I do that for, I don't know, a paragraph or two. And then because I really enjoy doing this, and because this is around when I was making my elevator pitch video that went up a couple weeks ago, I started trying to come up with a short elevator pitch. I really think this is important to do, at least for me, for a few reasons. I personally have a history of when I come up with an idea for a book, and this goes back like to whenever I started writing back in 2007, damn, is when I started writing a novel with the intention of getting published. And I've always had this problem. I get this idea, and then 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 I smash them all together, and then I cannot for the life of me tell you what this book is about in 1 or 2 sentences. And I really wanted to avoid that problem this time. I do think whether or not your book is high concept, I do think it just helps you so much to have a good short pitch where you can just say it to somebody and they're like, ah, I know what that's about, that's cool. So I came up with 2. One is just an X meets Y kind of thing. I chose 2 books that are like very well known. If I said them both, I am pretty positive you would have heard of them both. And I also feel like they're both very unique stories, but if I say it's this meets this and you put them together, you would think, oh, I see how there is an original story in there. I was very excited about that. And then I came up with a 1-sentence log line for the book that, again, I think really just says this is what the heart of the story is about. It has conflict. You can tell what genre it is. You can tell what kind of journey the character is going to have. I'm really pleased with the pitch I came up with. And because it is a high concept pitch, I'm not going to include it in this video yet. I might share it later on in the process, but the biggest reason I don't want to yet is because these kind of pitches, they can change. As I get to know what this book is really about, as I start to outline it, as I start to get to know the characters better, it might become about something different than I originally thought. And I want to go with that. And that's okay, and maybe I'll end up changing the one sentence pitch. I might end up changing my X meets Y. Maybe it's a whole different thing, and that's okay. That's part of the journey. But I don't want to like lock it down and say this is what it's about just yet, because that's part of the discovery process. I will say that I believe I said in last week's video that this is middle grade. It is middle grade fantasy. It is solidly in the fantasy genre, which I don't think I've ever written just like a straight ahead fantasy novel, so I'm very excited about that. And I've got my document open here and I'm scrolling through to share what I can with you. After I came up with my X meets Y and my one sentence summary, those pitches, I started working on, you know, the main characters. There are two main characters, and this is the kind of thing where there are two separate stories happening parallel to one another. And the more you go into the story, the more you see how they tie together. One of the main characters, I have a much better lock on her story than I do the other main characters. So here's where I have the most work to do. I spent a good page, 2 pages going through this main character's issue, you know, where she is at the start of the story, what the state of her life is, what things are like with her family, and just I know how she needs to grow. I know what she needs to learn. I know what kind of trouble she's gonna get herself into. I have a lock on her personality. Like, this is set. And this is like, it's vaguely there. It's gonna take shape. I'll get to know this character. Generally, I do know what the plot arc is, if that makes sense. I can see how her story is going to be exciting, but it's the emotional arc within it that I really need to figure out for this character. I'm not quite there yet, so I have to play with her a little bit more. Because this is fantasy, I had a few vague world building ideas, but I didn't really know what made my fantasy world unique. And I was in the car driving, typing on my Smart. That's what I was thinking about. I was like, okay, what's this story about? And then I remembered this dream I had back in February 2017, and I only know this because I emailed a friend about it and I went and dug up that email and that's when I wrote it down. So this is the first time and only time I have ever had a fully formed premise of a novel happen in a dream. Okay, so this dream was essentially 2 kids, this was a middle grade fantasy, 2 kids were in a hot air balloon. It was all very steampunky looking, except the balloon was made out of dragon wings and it had some sort of like dragon fire keeping it going. And I knew somehow in the dream that they had not killed a dragon and used its wings. No, that in their world, dragons were extinct the way dinosaurs are extinct in our world, and they had used the bones of their wings to create this balloon with like synthetic leather, and they were going, there was a whole lot more to it. I'm not going to bore you with it. That's the most important part, because now you know why I'm calling this Dragon Balloon, because that's the title I gave that document back in 2017 when I had this dream and I woke up and I was like, I have never had a fully formed middle grade fantasy dream before. I'm gonna write this down. And I did, and the only thing I really had was the world. I didn't know those 2 characters in the balloon very well. I tried to develop it. I came up with some stuff I liked, but in the end, the only thing I really enjoyed about it was the world that I built. And the rest of it fizzled. I wrote like 2 chapters, but I had like pages and pages and pages of brainstorming on this world. So when I got home, I remembered that dream in the car. And when I got home, I went and pulled up that document. I hadn't looked at it since then, and found specifically like the map I drew, because yes, I did draw a map, and that is not something I do very often. And all the notes that I had taken about that world. And I took them and I copy pasted them into my new document for this book. It turned out to be looks like a little over a page of stuff that I actually wanted to keep, and I made some edits and adjusted it so that it would work in this new book, this new concept. But basically, I think that world was just sitting in my head and sitting on my laptop for, I guess, 3-4 years, and now I think I finally found the story that's supposed to be set in that world. And again, there's no hot air balloon made of dragon wings. I just think that title is funny and I kind of want to pay a little homage to it. So that's going to be my fake title for this book for now, until I come up with a real title for it. I don't have one yet. So that's the next couple pages in this document. And then I really got into some deeper brainstorming about the, I guess I'll call her the primary main character, the one that I know better. I wrote, gosh, I'm looking at it now, I can see what I did on my Alpha Smart, and it is like a giant block of text about her, and specifically her relationship with her brother and her sister, and where they are in their lives right now, and things that have happened to them, especially in the last 6 months, and how that's gonna affect her going forward, and like the choices she's going to make. Man, I just had so many ideas on that car ride. I'm so happy the Alpha Smart thing worked out. So yeah, like I said, one character is good to go. I feel like I could almost start drafting at least the beginning of her story now. But this character is really important. The way their stories tie together are super important. So I'm gonna be patient. I need to let this develop and cook a little bit more. And if I'm being honest today, if I have any more ideas or thoughts, I'm just gonna go ahead and continue adding to this Dragonballoon word vomit document. I keep these going for a while until I'm ready to start outlining. The only other thing I'm gonna do to work on this book today is read. This is a little embarrassing to admit, but in my X meets Y pitch, again, both very well-known books, I've read one, but I haven't read the other. And I don't know why I haven't read this one. It's been around for a long time. It's a classic, I think you would consider it a classic. And the premise of it is so something that I would love. There's no excuse for me to not have read this book, or this series, because it is a series. So I am like 6 or 7 chapters into it, really loving it so far. I want to read it both for inspiration and to get myself in a middle grade fantasy mindset, and also to make sure that I'm not accidentally whipping off any elements from it. The parts of my novel that are going to be similar to this one, I don't want them to be too similar. I don't want it to be derivative, and I think you can accidentally do that. I mean, even if I've never read this book before, I could still be derivative of it by accident, you know? The other book, on the other hand, I have read multiple times, and I'm not going to steal anything from it. I know that story really well. So that's it. This is step 1 of how I work, what my process is when I get an idea. I will keep updating this every time I work on this book. I'm hoping that sometime before January I start outlining it. I've left my blank beat sheet up on my whiteboard, and I've got my post-its ready. If I start thinking of scene ideas, I'm gonna just start sticking them up there, but I will document all of that whenever it happens. So that's it. That's my plan for today, is just to read that book, and if inspiration strikes or I come up with anything I want to add, I'll go ahead and add it to this one document and let the idea grow. One other thing before I go, and this is totally off subject, I had the realization yesterday during Lisa Daly's live stream. We were talking about marketing, and I was talking about how I want to, for my book that's coming out in the spring, Somebody to Love, a middle grade title, I want to set up a virtual school visit tour and like a virtual book club tour. And I really wanted to do this. The book comes out in April, or so I thought, and I wanted to set it up so that I could maybe get some pre-orders. Well, and I'm gonna totally take the blame for this. Things at Scholastic have gotten shuffled around a lot because of the pandemic, and I have 3 books lined up with them, and the publication dates for the first 2 have just been swapped all over the place. And to make things more confusing, they're both going to be in bookstores but also in Scholastic clubs and fairs, and those get different publication dates. So what my editor told me when he gave me the latest update back in September on the dates is that for Somebody to Love, he said it's going to remain a spring title. He didn't specifically say it's going to stay in April, and maybe at the time he didn't know. Anyway, during Lisa Daly's live stream, as I'm talking about this, I was like, you know what date in April is that? Is it up for pre-order yet? Maybe I can start putting the link out there. So I go to Amazon and it's on there and it says it comes out January 5th. And I go to Barnes & Noble and it says it's out January 5th. And I see it on Target, out January 5th. It's out January 5th. Hey, that's like, yeah, that's a month from now. Okay. So, so much for setting up some sort of pre-order campaign that is like not gonna happen. So I emailed my editor and he confirmed, yes, it's out January 5th and it'll be in clubs and fairs in September. And I'm just gonna include links to Amazon, Barnes & Noble, etc., wherever you wanna buy it. Hopefully it's at your indie bookstore if you wanna buy your indie bookstores. Yay, indie bookstores. I will include all of those links in the description below. This is a young middle grade novel. It's a adventure about a girl whose bunny gets lost in Manhattan and comes across the street dog, and who is a former show dog, I should say, and he helps her find her way home. And it's very much for like kids who love Secret Life of Pets and Homeward Bound and those kinds of stories. So if you got any kids in your life that you think would enjoy this book, you can pre-order. Yay! That's gonna be it for this video. I'm gonna go cuddle with my dog and read a book and hopefully get inspired. I hope your writing is going well, and I will see you Monday with another video.